Lord, I pray that you speak into our lives. Fill our lives. But I know we all come from a different place. And we've all had different experiences this week. So I ask that you just calm our hearts, calm our minds, open us to the word that you have to say. But the words that come out of my mouth not be mine, but yours, Heavenly Father. In your name. Amen. If you are a child or you have special needs, you are dismissed. Youth, you're going to stay in today. I want to thank you all for that gift offering that you might have put in. Some people were asking, John, what is all that for? Well, due to all that you gave, we are able to get some food cards to be able to hand out to some people. We're able to give some blessings financially to some people in need. We're able to give some blessings to some of our missionaries to give them a little bit of extra this Christmas. We are excited to see what God is doing and moving. In fact, I was really excited. Last night I got a phone call at about 8 p.m. and it was Maranatha Church, and they were sitting with a food truck. And they said, John, this food truck company just showed up and they want to know if they can do an outreach in our parking lot on December 3rd. So you might see a little thing in your bulletin. And so if you come on December 3rd and you bring a blanket or you bring some clothes, they're going to give you a free taco from noon till 8. And they're going to set up in our parking lot. And they just want to do a collection so that they can go out. They found out that as a food truck, they're going to all these parks and areas, and there's all these homeless people around, and they're going to pass out everything that they can give. And I was like, I can get behind that this holiday season. I'm really excited. You know, you don't know this about me, but Christmas time is like my favorite time. So I had Kixie on already. And if you've turned to 96.5, you know that Christmas music's already blasting on Kixie. Some of you are rolling your eyes at me. I don't care. You can judge me all you want. It's only God that I'm worried about, not you. But I hope that you are preparing for this holiday season. I know it's crazy, right? Like stress just instantly builds when you know you're getting into Thanksgiving. And poor Larry's like stressed to the max, right? Trying to coordinate our Thanksgiving event. And then we heard there's rain. So now we're like, dear Lord, give us the ability to still do what we're going to do, but hey, we have flexibility in the name of Jesus, so we can adapt and adjust when it rains, right? So if you're helping and Larry says, you know what, you're just passing out food instead of sitting people down, that's what we got to do, right? But that's a stressful time. And then I started laughing because they've got Black Friday thrown into the mix. And my son, he's getting old enough that he's like, Dad, what is Black Friday? Right? And I'm like, it's hell, son. He's like, well, what does that mean? I said, it means people like leave after Thanksgiving dinner and they go shopping and then they don't come home till Saturday. He's like, well, what do? I said, well, if you go to Target, it's a lot calmer. If you go to Walmart, you try not to die. Right? And he goes, can we go? I think I did Black Friday once, like 10 years ago. 8 or 4 in the morning at JCPenney, and I got a jacket. And I wore it. You know, it wasn't a Christmas present. So I'm like, yeah, son. So pray for me. I might be crying in a wheelchair next week, but it'll be it. But what blows my mind as we get into the shopping season is we start to enter into the holidays. And all of the holidays mean as a Christian, there's a different aspect to the holiday season that a lot of other people do. But when we go into Target and Walmart on Black Friday, one of the things that blows my mind is there's going to be Christmas music playing in the background. And it's low and it's quiet. And you've got these Christmas songs that have such deep theology, that are talking about the foundations of our faith and this amazing gift that we have to offer. And it just becomes this background distraction noise in our life. And we don't even acknowledge and realize all of this moment that we're sitting in with this song. This time about, come, O come, Emmanuel. That in this manger, something amazing took place. And a lot of times when we get to these songs, when we get in these moments, we associate it with money, with the need to buy stuff for people. We associate this season with chaos and turmoil and frustration. And we start to look at these issues of, oh my gosh, I didn't get my Christmas bonus. And oh my gosh, these family members are coming to my house on Thanksgiving. How the heck am I going to put up with my in-laws? Dear Lord, give me strength. I'm not saying that about my in-laws. I love my in-laws. Your family is amazing, Erica. But we do that, right? Oh, Lord, I'm going to be in a wheelchair for another reason next week. And it's so easy for us to make all these things. So as we go into December, we're going to start to look at some of these Christmas carols that have such deep theology. See their foundation, why they were rooted, and how maybe when we hear them, we can actually pause for a moment and be in the presence of our Maker, rather than just letting them be the background of our lives. And I think if we're going to start to really go into that, to really own that, we got to start with the white noises in our life. And if you were to come to my house on any given night at about 9 p.m., which I guess I have an open door policy, but call first. It's amazing to me because in my house, there is a lot of white noise that takes place. My daughter, when you go into her room, she's got an iPad that's playing like ambient flute noises, and I don't even know. It's just calming songs in the background, right, all night. And then you go to my son's, actually my dad, hi Dad. You go to my dad's room, and he's always like passed out asleep, but it's the Hallmark Channel at like 3 in the morning, right? Like he's asleep, but I'm listening to somebody crying about their family drama at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's weird to wake up to, right? Or it's like a war movie, and you've got like World War II going off in his bedroom at 4 o'clock in the morning, while at the same time in my son's room across the hall, he falls asleep to water, like a bubbling brook. Right? So when I wake up because of his sound, and then I hear my dad's sound, and then I get calm going by my daughter, it's a weird experience every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I can't explain it. But how many of you, do any of you use white noise in your house? Some hands. I love that white noise comes in a lot of forms. There's machines, there's apps, right? Every time I go into the office, Tasia has like Luke, Tasia's looking at me now. Tasia has Luke sitting down in one of the offices trying to take a nap, and there's like a white noise generator going, and then I just want to take a nap, right? And the thing about white noise is it comes in all these different forms. And I read this article that said that if we were a sound engineer and we were trying to get 10 minutes of natural earthly sound, no man-made noises involved, we can take 10 hours of recording right now to get 10 minutes. Because I think in our lives there's just so much noise all the time coming at us, way more than there was 10 years ago. And the danger, I don't think, is the noise itself. I think the danger comes in what the noise keeps us from and who it distracts us from. So I want to start by looking at a definition of what white noise is. White noise, according to Webster's dictionary, is a heterogeneous mixture of sound waves extending over a wide frequency range. B, a constant background noise, especially one that drowns out other sounds. 2, meaningless or distracting commotion, hubbub or chatter. We use it to mask the other sounds that we don't want to hear. Took my kids to the dentist this week, which is never a fun time, right? Logan got a tooth pulled, and Cadence was just being Cadence. And when you go into the dentist's office, they've got movies in every corner playing, right? It was a Polar Express going on. But I said, why do you have the Polar Express and movies everywhere? Because we won't want the kids to hear the drills in the background, right? You go into offices and there's music playing to drown out the sound of the person in the cubicle next to you. You go to Dr. Lim, who preached last week. You go into the council, for some reason there's a dead moment in the song. There's a pad of music playing, so it's not uncomfortable for people, right? Before service starts, we play music, so when you come in, you feel a little more welcome, and it feels more comfortable, because if you just came in, it was dead silent in here, it makes us uncomfortable, doesn't it? You ever notice that? Wherever you go, there's noise in your life. Sometimes when you're driving and you've got a car full of people, I don't know if you're like me, but I still turn on the radio. I turn it down to like 2. But the music's playing in the background, even though I'm having a conversation with somebody. It just makes people more comfortable. In fact, the same way that white noise kind of masks the unwanted sound, we all live with some kind of noise in our life. We all do something to keep control and try to mask the things that maybe we don't want to hear, that we don't want to feel, that we don't want to deal with. Let me just give you an example in my life. I went to San Diego State. I was a music major. I majored in music because I hate studying. Right? I'm just going to be honest. I can sit down in a practice room and practice music for 20 hours straight and be happy. You tell me I got to go into oceanography in order to graduate, and I've got to study the movement of the waves and the flow of the ocean and how many sea stars are in the ocean, and I can't even make it 10 minutes. Maybe that's why I took the class twice. You know, I would try to sit down and I'd look at my chicken scratch of a notes, and you start looking at it, and the next thing I know, I'm sharpening all the pencils on my desk, or I'm like, man, this desk is really dusty. Right? And you start to go through all these things. And maybe it was that way because as I went to study, all these emotions would come into me. And I would start to think of my own inadequacy and my own insecurities about this topic because I didn't get it as fast as everybody else. I went through this with Greek as well. Right? And I started to think about the future. And if I didn't do this, maybe I won't be able to pass and I won't be able to graduate. I mean, it's already round 2. I don't think I can do another round 3. And so I would do anything and everything in my life to distract myself from what I was really feeling, right? Eric would be in the other room watching TV, and I'd be like, yes, Lost is on, up until the last season, right? And it's funny because I really hate going for walks, but I know when I have to study, I always want to go for a walk. Let's get real here for a moment. All of us have some form of white noise that we use in our life to distract ourselves when we don't want to feel something, when we don't want to deal with something. And what I want to do is, or to mask the emotion that you don't want to feel. People are thinking. In a minute, just find somebody next to you, share. Be honest and open. This is real. This is church. You got to be able to do it. What's something you do? Go for it. Bring it back. Let's bring it back. So, does anybody want to share what somebody else said? Not your problem, right? What somebody else said. What do we got? What do people use? Phones? Oh man, we're going to talk about that more for sure. You said music? Certain types, Christian music. Okay, you go to music, you go to a fan. Yeah, no, I get it. A fan. I completely can relate to that. I snore, not my wife. What else? What else we got? Yeah. You sleep. I'm done, I'm going to bed. I'm going to just stop everything. Yeah. You pray. The only holy one in the room right there. Only holy one. Right. I understand completely. What about you, Brent?
Banging some nails.
Yeah, I gotta go do a project. I'm the same way. I gotta go in the garage and start building something or fix something or do something. It's what I have to do. And I can keep going, but we're gonna bring it back. And the truth is, most forms of white noise aren't even that bad. It's not the white noise that's bad. It's what it keeps us from a lot of times. And the question is, what if God actually wants your attention in those moments? What if your family wants your attention? What if your friends want your attention? And I fear we're raising this generation of people who become unaware of how to deal with emotions that they're actually feeling. And I think when we get into a holiday season, as we start Thanksgiving, as we start going into Christmas, it brings up a lot of emotions. And for a lot of people, it brings up pain and turmoil and needs. And you start to look at all that brings into the play, and the noise of our life just starts to grow louder and louder and louder. And it's actually stopping us from taking time to solve the problems. And we fill our lives and our schedules, and we mask the problems rather than dealing with the problems. And we need to figure out, what am I really supposed to do? How do I listen to someone? How do I share what I'm actually feeling? How do I actually engage with God this season rather than masking Him? So all I want to do is just, for a few minutes, get into a couple verses and see how God wants to give us this guidance, this wisdom, this inspiration, this motivation, this courage to turn down the noise this holiday season. Maybe just low enough, maybe just long enough that we can actually be able to hear what our emotions are and what God's actually trying to tell us this holiday season. First thing Jesus says, if you got your Bible, you can turn with me to Matthew 5. We're going to be in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' best sermon. He says this. Now, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountain and he sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I want to focus in on Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. When I hear this, I always want to stop and say, wait, I want to see God. Right? I want to see God. I have all this noise in my life. I think I want clarity. I think I might actually want some direction in my life. And if you can see your loving, kind Father in the middle of your circumstances, wouldn't you want to? I think you probably came here today because there's something in you that wants to feel closer to God. There's something in you that wants to know that not only does he have a plan for your future, but he's actually active. He's actually moving. He's actually working. He's actually healing. He's actually guiding your life. That even though in the middle of all the noise that seems to be growing and getting louder and louder, our God actually cares about you. And even though he might feel distant, you're actually on his radar. That maybe you can see him actively moving in your life. You can see his presence in all these situations. He says, blessed is the person who has a pure heart, so you can be able to see clearly. If you want to see God in your life, he's saying that you've got to figure this out. Because how can you get a sense of clarity? A sense of purity inside your heart? It's not going to start by turning up the volume in your life or masking the problems that you've got going on. It starts with your heart. But I think it moves into action. It starts with being determined, by us actively taking some steps or actions to change, by us opening up, by us sharing our issues, by exercising some self-control long enough to turn down the noise, the temptation, the issues. But then it's listening to what our emotions are trying to say to us. You know that these emotions that you feel, God gave them to you for a reason. The emotions you have a purpose. And I saw this saying this week, and I loved it. It said this: your feelings or your emotions are messengers that are trying to tell you something. It's true. If you feel anger, that anger is trying to communicate something to you. Emotions are kind of like how I used to handle my last car. I had this 4Runner for a long time. I mean, a long time. And it started to get up into the 250,000 miles on it, right? And it got to the point where it was leaking oil and it had a cracked cylinder. And you know when that check engine light comes on in your car? That first moment that you see the check engine light, you get that moment of fear and terror. Right? Like the inside of you sinks. And you're sitting there going, oh no. Do I need to pull over right now? Can I make it home? Nothing's smoking, nothing's shaking, nothing's clunking. What does this mean? No, I think I'm okay. I'll keep going. But you're watching it, right? Did it go off? Is it still there? Did it go off? Is it still there? In the back of your mind, you're going, this is going to be expensive. Can I wait? No, I should probably go take it in. What am I free? Right? And the next thing you know, you're home. And if you're anything like me, you get home and you get distracted because your kids are doing something, and the next thing you know, you're running late, you get back in your car, and you start to drive, and you're going about 30 seconds, and you look down and go, oh no, the check, oh, I forgot about that. Oh no. Can I make it to my kid's school? So then I finally took it in to my mechanic, and I love my mechanic, not just because he's bald and his name's John, but it's true, he is, but I love my mechanic because he goes, John, your car is old, how long are you going to keep it? I don't know, not that much longer. Good, so we're just going to do the Band-Aid fix, or do you want to replace it? Because I can do the $20 fix, or I can do the $2,000 fix. What are we doing here? If you know me, I would go with the $20 fix for like 3 years, right? Because I was going to replace it. And so for a while, I had a cracked cylinder that would leak oil, and on really warm days, I would stop, especially after driving on the freeway right down at 4th and Highland over there, and it was smoking, right? And people would roll down their window and be freaking out. I'm like, no, it's not cool, man. It's been like 2 years. I'm still going, you know? But hey, I can solve this problem because every Sunday, all I got to do is take a quart of oil and put it back in. And if I fix this problem maybe just once a week, and I address it just once a week, and it only takes me 10, 15 minutes of really trying to fix this problem once a week for 10 to 15 minutes, maybe it'll solve the problem. In your life, even louder. You're masking it with Netflix. You're masking it with your phone. You're masking it with alcohol or drugs or food or something else, an addiction. And Jesus says, if you want to see me, if you want to see me working in your life, if you want to see God and hear his voice and feel his direction, then you've got to have purity in your heart, and you actually have to deal with everything. You got to bring it to me. But we got to work on your heart first. Now, I don't know about you, but I just went for the last couple of days to a theology conference downtown. We were just talking about deep theological stuff for a couple of days. And one of the words that kept coming up was mindfulness. I don't know if you've paid much attention to mindfulness in your life, but mindfulness, it's the process of keeping your attention alive and active in the present moment. It's really our ability to recognize, what am I feeling? What should I do with that emotion? How do I know what I'm feeling is right now? But more importantly, am I okay with what I'm feeling? And this concept of mindfulness is so connected to our prayer life. Mindfulness is being alive and active in the present moment in your position where we can actually pray on the needs that we actually have. Mindfulness is how we get ourselves in a position where we can actually talk to God about what we're feeling. That we can actually listen to God and hear what he's saying. If we were to go on to the next chapter of Matthew, in chapter 6, Jesus says there's a certain way to help this process of mindfulness and connectiveness to let you have the right vehicle to get to what you need to do. And he shows us this by Jesus is calling her. It says this in Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And I think this is really connected to 5:8 and the need for purity of heart. And it's recognizing that and actually putting it into practice. But let's be real. When we mask noise in our life, when we allow distraction to overwhelm, seeing God is not easy. Because one of the most challenging things about prayer is that God is invisible, right? And a lot of times if we were to go walking down the middle of, Target on Black Friday and we start praying ourselves out loud, people just think we're crazy, right? And we go through all these feelings and it's difficult for us. And when we go into a room and we close the door and we pray to our Father who is unseen, empty, about whether the bump on your arm is something you should see the doctor about. That's the way most of us pray. I do that. This is an honest place here, okay? Don't act like anybody's above this. The way most of us pray is it's just so easy to get distracted. And the most dangerous noise of all is actually our phone. I find it impossible to do things or to have conversations with my phone in the room because it beeps and it dings because people are texting me and calling me all the time. Right? Or sometimes I use my phone a lot for my Bible, and I can't do that as much anymore because then I Alice in Wonderland down a rabbit hole. Right? I'm like, what does this word mean? I click on the link in the Bible app, and the next thing I know, I'm on YouTube watching a video of some theological professor breaking down a thing. And it's 3 hours later. It's like worse than YouTube and TikTok and all that. Man, I just get so distracted. And it distracts me from where I should want to be able to pray. You have to turn down the noise that drowns out the voice of God in your life. And I think the reason why Jesus is asking us to pray in a room alone, away from everything, and away from everyone, is so that we can actually do that and turn down the noise. And they work hand in hand. He says when your Father, who sees what you've done in secret, he'll actually reward you. And let's be real, a lot of what we do in secret, we shouldn't be rewarded for. Jesus says if you go in the room, close the door, get on your knees and pray to your Father who's unseen. When you actually show some faith, then your Father will see you. And he'll give you a reward. And what's that reward, John? It's himself. Let me make it clear. It's not like until I close the door, get on my knees and pray, that he's holding out on you. Jesus has given us everything. Jesus has given him all of himself. God poured himself out as an offering for you, as a way for you to be entering into his presence because of nothing that you have done so that you could know the Father. But the reason why I don't pray, it's not because God's holding out on me, it's because I'm too distracted. How many of you, do you remember the old school Nintendo? I'm a Nintendo 64 guy, but my first system was the OG Nintendo, right? What did you do when that Nintendo didn't work, which was like every time you tried to play it, right? You took out the disc or the cartridge, and what would you do? And then sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't, so then you had to like get up in there, right? You blew on it. You had to clean the sensors so they could communicate properly with the system. And maybe this is the same thing that God's trying to say to us here today. He's saying maybe you need to clean off the connectors of your life so that we can communicate clearly. So that you can feel what you've got all of me. Because I want you to know that I am not holding out on you. But if you can't hear me, it's maybe because there's just too much noise in your life these days. Maybe you just need to clean your own connectors, right? I remember my dad's first cell phone. It was that brick of a thing, right? And it had this antenna that he would pull out, right? But then that thing always just didn't work right? So you'd have to clean the antenna off because it was all just crusty. Maybe it's just his pocket. I don't know. But for some of us, we get that way. But if you can't hear me, maybe you just need to calm it down. You need to clear it out in your life. Because the reward is being able to know God and know that he's in your life, that he's involved in your life, and that you can trust him, and that he's present, and that he cares, and that he's wanting to see the best in your life. That's the power of prayer. So, I think there's a lot of common unwanted emotions that a lot of us are running from. Maybe for some of you it's loneliness. But here's what we do. We don't want to feel that. So we just turn up the noise a little bit more. You just keep your finger on that dial. Because you just don't want to feel alone. Maybe for some of you, you deal with insignificance in your life. You say, I don't like the way insignificant feels in my life. I think that's why so many of us, we work extra hard. That's why so many of us, we do all of these things, so we're just constantly going, and we want to see a goal. We want to see an outcome, because we don't want to feel like our life is without purpose or without meaning. We don't want to feel like we have inadequacy in our lives. Like maybe we don't feel capable. And so we just work because we need positive affirmation in our lives. So maybe we can actually get a promotion at work. At least I know whether I'm winning or losing in life now in this area, but everywhere else, it just, the noise. It's overwhelming at times. Maybe we're just afraid of what's going to happen in our future. So in your life, you turn up the dial just a little bit more. Because I don't know what's happening next in my life. Or maybe it's just anxiety. You've just got anxiety that's been there all your life, and so you just find you just need to go to bed. You need to turn on Netflix. You need to turn on all these things. You need to go to something else because you just can't manage the chaos, the noise, the frustration that is overwhelming you all the time. And we get to this moment where we're just in turmoil, where we're just overwhelmed with everything that is taking place in our life. God says, you know what? I don't want you to be in that moment. I don't want you to be in that place. But I want to give you a solution to get out of that. But it's going to take you walking into the room. It's going to take you shutting the door. Maybe it takes you getting on your knees and saying, you know what? It's time to pray. It might be a little uncomfortable. It might be too real. He says, but when you actually take the time for me, I'll begin to make things clear in your life. Because you know what? I am a loving Father. Because I want the best for you. I want you to deal with these emotions in a real, healthy way. But you know what else? Even though you may feel like you're alone in that room, I'm right there with you. And I'm going to take that road with you every step of the way. We don't serve a God that says, just go figure it out on your own. And once you figured it out, come back to me. He says, no, I'm going to enter it with you. I'm going to walk it with you. It's not going to be easy, but you don't have to be afraid about what you're going to find. And what if you decide that you're actually going to deal with your emotions before your emotions deal with you? What if you decide to actually do that? How much would it change this holiday season? Because let's be real, your emotions are your emotions. And you have every right to feel the way that you feel. But if you stay in the middle of that, it might not be the healthiest thing for you. And others around you will, I think, eventually pay for your emotions and refusing to deal with it. And that's the way life works. Yeah, it's my life and it's my emotions, but it affects everybody in my life. All of my family, my kids, future generations will reap the benefits of the work that I do or what I refuse to do. What if you actually decided today? What if you actually decided this holiday season, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for you. Here's what I suggest. I think the first thing that we really have to do is we have to identify it. Now, some of you just heard some of the things that I said up here, and you're like, yeah, I do that. I'm distracted by Netflix. I'm distracted by my phone. I think I can do something about that. Some of you just don't have a clue what the distraction and noise are. That was the hardest thing I've asked you to do in a while, is actually share what your noise is in your life. Well, guess what? More than likely, you know somebody in your life, or you're going to go home with somebody today that would be more than glad to tell you what the distraction is in your life. I grew up, and it made me think in my life, like, yes, Saturday morning cartoons taught me a lot about my life. Right? I loved it. G.I. Joe was my jam. And he said this. Oh, maybe not. Let's be real. If we need to identify what we need to work on, knowing is half the battle. You should at least know and identify what the noise is, and then maybe you can experiment with it. Maybe you can figure out how to get over it, and it's not easy. Doesn't mean that you have to go crazy and you have to like cancel the internet or throw away your phone. I'm just saying, maybe when you drive to work, turn down the outside noise and tune into God. Maybe when you actually go to dinner with your family or your friends, leave your phone in your car. Because you don't have to Instagram 24/7. Maybe actually be present with your children. You might miss out on an incredible food post, but at the same time, you're going to become a healthier person. And there's something to that. Last thing. Would you actually be intentional to what you're masking? Would you be intentional to say, what is this noise that I'm actually masking in my life? What am I covering up? What am I afraid of that's there? Might be like, I think I'm just hungry. Well, guess what? You're probably hungry. And that's it. Right? Well, now you at least know that you're hungry. At least you know that your body's saying, I need to take a Sabbath and actually sit down and take care of myself for a few minutes instead of just going on and doing something else. And when we do this, God might be wanting to tell you, do you know why your work is unfulfilling? Because I want to be in your life. Do you know why you continue to chase money? It's because it's never going to fill you the way I want to fill you. Do you know why you're feeling lonely? Because you're searching in all these different areas of your life rather than allowing me to fill that need for communion and intimacy that you truly need with me. And I'm just telling you, none of it's going to meet the needs that God wants to meet in your life until you turn down the noise low enough and long enough, and you're actually ruthlessly curious enough to see what God's trying to say in your life. What if